Welcome to the Newport This Week video podcast series. I'm Bill Bartholomew. Remember, you can find all of our episodes on the Newport This Week YouTube channel or, of course, on newportthisweek.com. Today, a conversation that has global implications for sure, obviously, but has been localized in Newport through the Newport Bridge Brigade, as it's called. And that is showing support for Ukraine. And there was an impromptu rally. You can read about it in the paper. And I'll read from that article just to sort of set things up. Over 40 people attended an impromptu rally in support of Ukraine at the intersection of the Pell Bridge off-ramp on March 4th, waving flags and signs. Participants were joined in sentiment by passing vehicles honking their horns. The event was organized by the Newport Democratic City Committee just a day after the United States temporarily halted military aid to Ukraine amid the country's ongoing efforts to repel a Russian invasion launched more than 3 years ago. Rob, you're the chair of the Democratic City Committee. I suppose if you want to introduce yourself and sort of set the table for why this event took place.
Sure. Thanks very much. Pleasure to be here. Actually, I am the treasurer of the Newport Democratic City Committee,
My
but
mistake.
no, that's okay. But chair of one of our direct action committees, which pulled together this visibility, we called it. And that was in conjunction with the Ukrainian Relief Project of Jamestown and Aquidneck. So I will say that they were responsible for a large part of the turnout as well. And this, what we're looking to do is really focus on democracy, because we really feel that what's happening in the United States is getting away from our roots, and everything that Trump and his administration have done since taking office has been really an assault on democracy. And that's what the battle for Ukraine is all about. This is a sovereign country um, that Russia invaded. And the hardships that they've endured by the bombings that have happened to civilian populations, to hospitals, to their infrastructure, all things that are against the Geneva Convention and are war crimes. Um, and so we really wanted to bring attention to the fact that people are not happy that Americans, many are have Ukrainian ties. I myself am 50% Ukrainian. My family's last name was Zadrozny, and my grandmother came over during the 1920s. Um, and I know that the homeland is not far from Kyiv, in areas that were some of the early battlegrounds. So it's very personal for me, but the outpouring of support, I think people are just very outraged, frankly, with the tack that the Trump administration has taken. It's been very retaliatory, very disjointed, and very destructive. So we're there to say that, we have a constitution. And the Republicans are in power. They have the Senate, they have the House, but they seem now to just be giving all the power to Trump and the administration. And he's going around the Constitution to basically punish his enemies, which he sees everywhere, and rather than loyal opposition, um, and to really reward his friends. So, but I will say that the event was very heartening because it was genuinely an outpouring of support. I can honestly tell you, half the people there had never attended that type of rally before.
Mm.
We had a number of Ukrainians there, a young family who's come over from Ukraine, who lives in the area with their young infant. We had a Navy officer who actually trained um, Ukrainian forces. So we're just hoping to clear up a lot of the misinformation that's out there as well. You hear a lot about where this money is going. They're not paying us back. My understanding, is that a lot of the military aid we've given them, they have then purchased American ammunition, and weapon systems, many which were obsolete to us. That's helped local companies like Raytheon, and that's where my wife works.
Yeah.
And as well, the aid we've given them directly has been to support um, workers who used to be a university professor, and now he is or she is working in is leading a battalion. So these are people who were not trained as soldiers who've given up their livelihood and are fighting for their country. And nothing is more democratic and the history very close to the history of our country, our nation, as what Ukraine is going through right now.
No question that the spheres of influence on a globalized scale have been disrupted significantly in what the last, I mean, it's constantly shifting, but for sure in recent times, we've seen a real shift in terms of alliances on the sub-Rosa level and also on the surface level, inclusive of Ukraine, which has become really the front line in this notion of a new theater in the world of Russia re-establishing itself in a sort of pan-Asian Euro dominant force versus NATO and what we would call the West. So we see this playing out, and it's an odd thing to hear sympathy for Vladimir Putin and sympathy for this this invasion, which is what it is, this incursion by anybody that believes in democracy. And so when you have a president who pulled a stunt like we saw, what was it, last week in the Oval Office, the bizarre, seemingly set up, you've got J.D. Vance involved, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, sinking in his seat in what appeared to be he was totally humiliated. And then after this ejection of Zelensky from the White House, it seemed ejection or the
Yes.
breakdown of conversation, the global response of whether it be the United Kingdom, Canada, and just a sentiment globally of, okay, well, we can do this without the US. America first has become America first when we choose. We certainly have imperialistic tendencies, but it's also become America first as in, yeah, we want to break down some of the traditional alliances that have helped to stabilize the world in the post World War II era. Your take on where the United States, as a reputation and as a hegemon, will sit in the wake of a Ukraine that could potentially fall to Russia?
Oh, well, I think Trump has done tremendous damage to our not I mean our reputation. Forget about our reputation. These are alliances that go back 80 years. And don't forget, Vladimir Putin kills his opponents. He killed Alexei Navalny in prison. And that's how he treats opposition. There's no opposition in Russia. If people are concerned about getting a knock on their door because they've taken a stand or done something like that, could that happen in the United States? That's what we're concerned about. You've asked about globally. I think the response by our European former, I still say they're our allies, because I don't think the Trump administration has a mandate. They keep saying that they do, but I think their election was much narrower than he will admit, and which is no surprise because he's a pathological liar, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the important thing here is that we do have to show the kind of support that we're seeing. Uh, and it's not only around the United States. You see what's happening, in small towns across the country, in red states. People are upset not only about Ukraine, but about our eroding democracy, the assault on our democracy, from proposing to cut veterans' benefits to Medicaid, Medicare, the dismantling of government agencies, many of which are there to oversee the kinds of action that Elon Musk does with his businesses. The fact that he spent so much money on the election illegally, um, giving out millions of dollars. Uh, so, so we're here to say it's not only Ukraine, it's an outrage that we're standing up against in many different sectors. So the kinds of visibilities we did with the Newport Bridge Brigade will continue. We certainly have one coming up later this week, Wednesday, the 12th of March, from at starting at 4:30. There'll be some lane closures on the bridge, so we'll see how that goes. There may be people in traffic waving to us. But this is something that's going to continue, and we're going to extend it to other parts of the state and join in with other groups. The Newport Democratic City Committee is one of 39 Democratic city and town committees across the state, and we're looking to band together and support citizens, to give them a voice and to make sure that we can hold our elected officials. We're so fortunate with our delegation here in Rhode Island with Gabe Amo, Seth Magaziner, Jack Reed, and Sheldon Whitehouse. They are stalwarts, but we need to extend and make sure they know we have their back as they stand up.
Right. Hyper localizing global issues is something that we're going to have to do more and more of on a number of different levels as we move forward in a changing environment, in terms of politics, but also in terms of practicality. I wonder if anybody if you had people with opposing viewpoints get into interactions with you at all. I mean, I certainly hear this on the radio when I'm on WPRO almost every day. We get people that call up and say how Zelensky's corrupt and he's Ukraine is garbage and shouldn't exist. And I mean, we hear these things. These are Rhode Islanders that put their voice on the air. Putin is, there's a lot of things to admire about him. And, you get called all kinds of names, which I won't say here. But I wonder if anybody stopped to say, hey, you guys are a bunch of, leftist lunatics or woke clowns or anything like this. Or is this limited to social media and calling a talk radio program because it requires actual courage to confront individuals who are standing up for democracy in person? What's been your experience?
Well, the action we did last Tuesday was very impromptu, but I can say we were seeing cars coming out of the Navy base, and independently, you can come down and listen. I'd say 90% of the people were honking their horns, giving thumbs up. We had a few people who slowed down and gave us some choice words. And one gentleman might have circled his truck back around and gave us a second look. But in general, I think we're there. We're expecting that. But what we're trying to do is we're very peaceful, first of all, and we are looking to just where we can correct misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
and to just make sure that with Elon Musk, there's a very big control they have on social media. And you do have trolls. You don't even know what's generated, what's real and what's generated. Um, but I think we're really there to say that Newport does have a voice, that we stand up for what we believe is right. We stand up for the Constitution. We stand up for democracy and the rule of law. And those are things that are vital to our the survival of our democracy here in Newport and across the country.
Couldn't agree more with that. Rob, thanks so much for your time today.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.